There's so much I want to say, and I don't even know where to start, but hey, here goes. Hello, it's Tao. So, for those who don't know, I'm a Scorpio sun with a Pisces moon, and I do have my rising as Scorpio as well. My Mercury is in Sagittarius in very low degrees. I think it's like 2 degrees in Sagittarius. Virgo for Mars and Libra for my Venus sign. Now, if you've listened to my videos and my recordings, you would know that I ramble really badly. I keep on there's no structure to the shit I talk about, and I just kind of go on and on, and I just talk. And this may seem very unusual because I'm a Scorpio, and Scorpios are meant to be quite mysterious and quiet. Instead, I have verbal diarrhea. True story. Now, I've realized, like, over time that the way that I perceive myself as a Scorpio is a bit different to what I have in my mind. And I think I was around my mid-20s when I was, really figuring out who I was and, learning to have my own personality and opinions, really. And being more confident and building on my self-esteem. That was a very important time in my life, right? And, being a Scorpio, I'm always breaking down people's identities. Like, I'm psychoanalyzing everyone. And when I was a lot younger, when I first got into typology or understanding people, using like astrology typology or, palm hand psychology even, these alternative systems of understanding, I was going nuts with it. I was reading everyone. I wanted to get everybody's date of birth that I've even bumped into, even strangers. I just was so willing to read because I was still learning. It was in the new stages. Everything was all exciting because it was new patterns that I was playing with. And when that all happened, sometime through that, I remember, I think, through my interactions with, different friends, sometimes they'll say something that kind of takes me off guard. And it will be how I come across, and it kind of like shocks me a bit when they actually verbalize it. Because I never realized, I'm always breaking down people's personalities, and, in retrospect, thinking about it, I was really reckless with it. I don't think that should be done to anyone and everyone. I shouldn't be opening up people's minds who haven't asked for it. I think, information or knowledge is something sacred to some. Sometimes I think that we should be letting go of our need to understand things. I think that's our problem, and I don't want people to perhaps go down the exact same path that I did. And if I could help them in any certain way, I would love to help them. But when it comes to these readings, I am giving out information that they weren't previously privy to. There is a give and take, or yin and yang, or one and the other with everything in this world, right? And being, Asian, and my family's very heavily Buddhist, karma is a huge deal when it comes to everything about my culture. And understanding that if I'm, recklessly giving out information, there's going to be a reaction somewhere. There's going to be a take somewhere. And if it's not happening to me directly, which usually it does happen to me, it'll be somewhere else. And it will be uncalled for, And I don't think that's the right thing to project into the world. So I started getting a bit more particular with those I gave readings to. The first time somebody mentioned something to me was one of my friends. We were quite open to each other with who we are. I thought I'm an ENFP, if you know MBTI, and she's an INFP. So around each other we were quite comfortable. And she mentioned to me about how I flirt with people. And I looked at her and went, what do you mean I flirt with people? I don't flirt with anyone. And then she's like, yeah, you do. You flirt. And I'm like, I was a bit shocked by this, you know? Because then, you know, her saying that, it kind of then shook up my whole understanding of what flirting may be. And I remember going to work the next day and I was like stormed into the tea room where two of my close workmates were, and they're both Cancer signs, right? And I was walking and I go, hey, do I flirt? And then they look at me and they say, are you seriously asking us now? I'm like, yeah, this is what happened. Like, I was hanging out with my mate and then blah, blah, blah. Then she said that I flirt. And then they looked at me and started laughing. They go, and she said, well, yeah, depending how you look at it, because we've known you for a while, you're just a friendly person. But yes, you flirt. When you're friendly to people or to these guys, it's considered as flirting. I go, what? What do you mean? Like, seriously, I was like, what do you mean? I'm just being friendly. Are you saying that's flirting? They're like, yes. And I was so confused by that because that's not how I understood it, because I thought it was just like a expected societal or social etiquette to just be friendly as a human, you know? I didn't realise how I was coming across. And this is probably where I was a bit confused. and I had to take a step back going, I'm always the one breaking down people's, you know, psychology, etc. And to hear someone do it to me, it was quite moving, because I really like that. I really want people to tell me how I'm perceived, because I can't understand myself that way. I can't see myself objectively, you know what I mean? Because in my head I think I come across a certain way as a Scorpio, but you know, I come across completely something different, and it kind of really confused me at one point. And I sat there and I questioned, should I change the way that I behave? Because I don't want to, you know, come across as flirting. I don't want people to take me the wrong way. And that was my initial thought with it. And I sat with that for a bit. I'm like, nah, that shit. I'm just going to be who I always have been. And, you know, it was like kind of a bit of an epiphany too, because there will be people that come and go in my life, and especially males, right, who become my friends, and I think that they want to be my friend, and then suddenly they're always there, and then suddenly they disappear. Like, after like 6 months, they just disappear. I'm like, you know, people just, maybe it's something about me that they don't want to stick around for, because at the beginning, they're all really close and want to be friends, and I'm excited about being friends, you know, but understanding this now, when I'm talking to my mates about it, they're like, well, they probably can't get what they want from you, and then when they realise that you're just being friendly and you weren't flirting, they go away. I'm like, damn, that makes more sense now why people will come and go like they have been. And I've been absolutely oblivious to this, right? So that was the first time, you know, somebody kind of like pointed something out with me. And I don't know why people don't do it more. And I do know why. Maybe they find me a bit terrifying in that way, or confronting, because I do understand people. I can understand how I'd come across, right? And then as time kind of went by, I think the next scenario that kind of happened was I met a guy that I knew from a friend of a friend, and we hung out a couple of times, and he would actually be really laid back with me and actually, you know, point out things about me and mention things, and that doesn't normally happen with me, even though I hang out, like I have a lot of close friends. And then I, you know, went back to work and I told those two girls, you know, two girlfriends, and they're like, their reaction to it was a bit confusing at first for me. The first girl was like, damn, who has the balls to take you on? And I went, what? Because I was telling her I met someone and they, you know, psychoanalyzed me, and I was learning so much about myself and, you know, my, you know, things in the past, and I'm like all worked up and excited about that, you know, about that interaction. And her reaction was, who has the balls to do that to you? And I went, when I said, what? She goes, I'm just saying, like, you know, it has to be someone that's pretty ballsy, you know? And I kind of got offended by that. And I was just like, what do you mean? Because in my mind, I see myself in the way that I think I'm coming across is like super friendly. So I thought, right? So now I have this idea that, man, I really can't understand or see myself objectively. I'm getting it wrong because it's very different to how I had it in my mind, right? So that was probably the kickstart or the first, or the reason why I kind of started being more aware of how I am perceived and how people were perceiving me and perception in general. There are certain signs that I never really kind of like to read, and I'm just going to say it here, Taurus. Anyone that's a Taurus or has Taurus in their main signs, that's a sign that I just don't want to read. There's no point for me to go there, to be honest. Even if they're, curious, there's no point. I'm wasting my time and I don't want to waste my time. But I had someone reach out to me through Facebook. They weren't Facebook friends or anything. So they found me on Facebook. We had a mutual friend. They mentioned the mutual friend. And they were asking if I could give them a reading. Because they've heard amazing things. Like, they were pretty much fluffing it up so I would be all buttery and agree to it. And when I learned that she was a Taurus, I said no. And she just kept asking, and I get put in these, awkward positions, and then I feel bad, And because we have this mutual friend that I completely respect and appreciate as mate, I agreed to give her a reading, but I said I'll record that reading. Now, I spoke to her on the phone for 3 hours. I didn't know her. Like, we work in the same organisation, but I've never bumped into her at all. We talked for 3 hours, and after all of that, I kind of went away from it going, I don't know if she took in what I wanted her to take in or to take away. I don't know if I did anything to help. And I actually re-listened to the whole 3 hours again. And I was... This is the first time I recorded myself, right? And I was absolutely appalled by the way that I came across. I remember thinking, damn, I'm like literally yelling at her so loud and lecturing her like I'm like a mean, narcissistic mother telling off her child for the sake of telling off her child. It was kind of like that. And I was so shocked by it. I was just like embarrassed, all sorts of feelings went through me. Because that's not how I came across, or that's not how I pictured it in my head. And when you first hear your own voice or see yourself on video or camera, you feel a bit different from it because you're like, oh, is that how I sound? Or is that what I look like? It's a different perspective, right? So I kind of learned a lot from that, and over time I kind of recorded a lot of my conversations, or just me even talking to myself. And it kind of really helped me to understand things objectively after emotions have died down, or even years later I re-listened to or re-watched one of my videos on YouTube and I learned things that I've forgotten about, and I kind of look at it going, oh, shit, it's like the first time I'm learning this, and it's me talking about it. Like, I see myself talking about it, but I can't recall that I knew that already. It's quite bizarre. It's like jamais vu. Not déjà vu, jamais vu, so it's the opposite. And so I'm bringing this up while I'm talking about the Scorpio, because this is the thing with Scorpios, all right? I'm gonna just lay it out here and listen very carefully, Scorpios. You may or may not know this already. Now, your ability to understand naturally human psychology is extremely intelligent, your ability is way up there. You've been doing this and you've been observing people for quite some time. You understand a lot of things because you find comfort in that understanding. So you're very aware of your surroundings, the people that surround you and your environment, right? Because you're potentially scanning for threat. Now, Scorpios, I want to appreciate and I want to recognize here how great you are when it comes to understanding things objectively. You can look at someone or look at things, or even work in an organization, look at processes and manuals, and kind of really are good at understanding how it's all intertwined and how the mechanics of things work, or you understand the basics of what went on there in that situation or what someone may be going through. But when it comes to yourself and understanding yourself, this is where things fuck up. Scorpios are really intelligent with understanding shit, right? They know a lot, and that's something that probably Scorpios say, I know. Because even if they don't know, they know. Because Scorpios know everything. True? Even if they don't ever have known or been taught, they still know. That's the thing with Scorpios. Sometimes, when I was going through shit or growing in my 20s, I don't think I realised I couldn't understand myself objectively, because in my head I was just like, yeah, it's the same train of thought as I thought that I was thinking about things the same way, and it was still logical thinking and reasoning. But the problem is because, well, our emotions are on when it comes to ourselves being in a situation, right? Whatever we're thinking about or trying to figure out, because we're involved in that situation and our emotions are affected by it, any rational thinking or critical thinking and reasoning that we do is filtered through the emotions that we have in that situation. And that becomes skewed data, right? What spits out on the other side, we think, because we're in that mindset, that it's true. And because, we've logically thought about it. But because we're involved in it, we don't initially we're not aware that that's impacted the integrity of the data. So it comes out skewed. So what we think might be true or real, it may very well not be, because our emotions have already entered. So we can't, it's like we can't see ourselves objectively. I think the ability for us to observe people or watch people from a distance, or watching a movie, I think that is something that we've done since we're young, and we're really good at that, right? But we can't see ourselves, and that very fact is why what we think may not be right, and that's something, and it can be difficult to actually accept that if you're a Scorpio and you didn't know this about yourself. Maybe this doesn't impact you. It really does depend on your other signs as well, of course, but essentially that's what's going on. So I know when it comes to my emotions, because my emotions are already on, the power of my emotions is a lot more stronger than my thought. Now, in my normal day-to-day life, I prefer to sit in my mind and have rational thinking. I don't choose to have intense emotions because that's uncontrollable. It's erratic. We don't know how to, fix that because we haven't got emotional regulation. We don't know how to regulate our emotions because we're never shown. And we like to be in control, and emotions are uncontrollable usually. And we know that when we have intense emotions, there is no logic. Logic's gone out the window. And that's why this is specific to Scorpios and how the information can be skewed when it comes to Scorpios, because your emotions are already on. Because essentially, day-to-day life, mind will win over heart, right? Head will win over heart. But as soon as you fire up those emotions, there is no chance for your mind or your head to win that battle, because everything is your emotions. It's that intense, right? And that's something that you need to accept if you haven't already. So why I record these videos is it kind of is my preferred method of creativity, or my preferred method to organize the chaotic thoughts and information that I have internally in my mind. When I verbalize it through words and language, it helps me, I kind of organize the mess that I have inside. It's bringing order from my disorder, or bringing order to my chaos and emotions, And the way that I kind of talk about it, because I'm not talking, when I'm feeling and thinking in my mind, it's through me. When I'm talking verbally out like this, like explaining it to someone else, it's quite objective. So when I actually really listen to it, I learn things that I may not have known through my emotional state, if that makes sense. And I think this is really important to know. And if you're a Scorpio and you're listening to this and you're still hearing this right now, you need to ensure that you have a creative outlet. There are intense emotions when it comes to Scorpios. Your chaos, your chaos within you completely at the most contrasting, polarizing energies. It's crazy inside. You need something to pour that into. So when you have a creative outlet, you're essentially bringing order from your internal disorder, right? So the very act of me talking into conscious world, or even art is, there's a method to art. It's bringing the balance between your unconscious and conscious, your internal and external, and it's soothing. And this is something that you definitely should do and consistently commit to it, because you could not do this and then you could explode. And it could be like a grain of rice will make you like go off and go crazy. And when you go crazy, that's emotions, and that's erratic, and that's who knows what's behind all that. It's energy that's completely chaotic and crazy and unpredictable and random. And that's not something that you choose to go into willingly, right? So Scorpios, get a creative outlet, whether it be drawing, recording like I do, give it a go, like try. Videos, editing, whatever creative thing that you want to do. Writing, singing, dancing. But there needs to be something for you to get your energy out. It's like how they say creativity is like having a annoying, untrained Jack Russell Terrier dog. They're annoying as shit and they yap all the time. And if you don't give that dog something to do, it's going to chew up all your shoes, it's going to chew up your furniture because it had nothing else to do. That's what emotions are. We need to ensure that our emotions are doing something, that there's a outlet or something that we're doing, because if we leave it alone, it's going to go crazy. True story. It's just going to go haywire, and you're going to be spending all your time trying to tame that. It's like the music video for Chandelier by Sia. That girl that's always dancing, and if you look at all the music videos, eventually she goes like totally crazy inside. And that's like trapping in your inner child, or whatever it is, or however you want to understand it. If you repress something enough, it's going to go erratic. It's going to go crazy. It's going to explode if you repress and reject something within yourself that shouldn't be, And so figure that out. Give it a go. Journal or something. It actually really does help. True story. So when I do these videos, I do it with the intent of trying to figure out and understand, or put some sort of framework of understanding to help me soothe myself, really, to be less anxious internally without ever admitting that I'm anxious, because that's not how I come across. But internally, Scorpios are always have an underlying level of anxiety, because life and survival, or living or being alive for a Scorpio, is about self-defense. And that self-defense is because you never learn to regulate your emotions. You sit constantly, willingly in the conscious world of logical thinking and reasoning. And that because it makes you feel more comfortable to be in that zone. But you're a water sign, and that's being always in that masculine conscious state, or in words and logic and understanding, etc. It's not kind of where you want to be, but it does bring you comfort, because that was your survival mechanism. That was your defense mechanism. You do that, and you want to understand as you do, because it makes you feel less terrified. You're not in a state of fear when you know or understand something. It's your method to protect yourself, essentially. So Scorpios can come across as possessive and obsessive, you're doing all this to protect yourself. You know, people see Scorpios as strategic or cunning or selfish. You're doing what you're doing to protect yourself, because out there we understand what loss is being Scorpios, and we know what it means to lose something like that is of importance, and you don't want to go through that. But people don't understand that at the level that you do. I've rambled on way too long, so I'll probably have to cut this short. But if you're a Scorpio listening to this, be aware of yourself. Try to be more objective. So when I don't talk about my personal emotions when I'm telling the story, like I'm talking to a friend about what I'm going through. When I verbalize everything like this, it's me trying to understand what is happening. So when I use these references like astrology and numerology, these systems of thought or systems of understanding that is already out there and existing, which is essentially what it is just a pattern of things that we use to understand. That's what science is. It's more soothing. So what we want to do is relieve ourselves from anxiety, because we haven't gone to the future, we will always be anxious in the present, because Scorpios need to go from one to the other in order to understand where we came from and where we went, and be able to step back and understand in retrospect or in reflection what everything means. That's how we derive meaning, and deriving meaning or understanding is just another defense mechanism or a survival mechanism that we use to ease ourselves in this world, right? So Scorpios, if you are listening to this still, what do you want me to talk about? What will help you? If you wanted to ask me something specific, comment. If you wanted me to anything, if you want to ask me anything, I would love it if you could comment and let me know. Even like this video, because sometimes I don't know how this video is kind of perceived or if I'm on the right track, and I kind of need that feedback to understand if it's applicable to all Scorpios or I'm skewing myself up with the information that I currently have. Do you know what I mean? But I would have really appreciated it if you comment, say hello, ask me a question. Tell me what you want to hear about. Otherwise, I'm just going to blog this shit, because every time that I have too much on my mind, I will just go down this path then to try to organize myself. So this is why I record myself. Why I upload it is to make myself accountable for the shit that I talk about. I record myself constantly. Like yesterday, I probably recorded myself like about 10 times. I don't upload everything that I kind of ramble on about, because some of it won't make sense. And it will just make me seem like I'm crazy. And I'm already as crazy as a Scorpio. I don't need more of that energy. But yeah, I appreciate it if you guys would comment, let me know what you think. And if you disagree or agree, what's applicable to you, I would love to hear that from you. And stay strong, Scorpios. That's all I can really say. Stay strong.
Ed, we can't choose where we come from, but we can choose where we go from there. I know it's not all the answers, but it was enough to start putting these pieces together. And you helped me. Even if you didn't know what I was talking about, or know someone who's gone through it, you made me not feel alone. I can see it. This one moment when you know you're not a sad story. You are alive. And in this moment, I swear, we are infinite.